Good morning, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. It's October 5, 2022, Wednesday. This is Erman, COLEJARA, and you are watching NewsX Daily Communication Newscast. Critical thinking is the ability to create an opinion with factual supporting evidences that are rational. It involves visualizing, analyzing, and logically assessing the meaning of the message. It is referred to as independent thinking because you need to direct, discipline, and monitor yourself before you can attain critical thinking. To be a critical thinker, you should be able to analyze information or messages and sort through persuasive appeals, discriminate between faulty arguments and valid reasoning, follow ideas to logical conclusions, and appreciate a diversity of opinions and presentation styles. This chapter will focus on adopting awareness of audience and context in presenting ideas, the various ways we can present our ideas or messages for target audiences in local and global settings using appropriate registers, and understanding the message critically to enhance listening, reading, and viewing skills. At this point, let us hear from Jayson de los Santos as he will provide us with more information regarding the different purposes of messages and the ones transmitting and controlling these messages. Jayson.
Yes, Erman, a message is containing informations, news, advices, or requests. It is the final concept of the idea by the sender. It may be encoded in various forms like spoken words, written words, nonverbals, pictures, films, advertisements, and etc. Messages sent by different sources and have their specific purpose. The three main purposes of message are: first, to inform or educate. Media messages that are meant to inform or educate are typically more neutral and unbiased. However, be aware of author or organizational bias that might accompany the message. The usual platform for this purpose of message are newspaper articles, magazine features, vlogs, radio broadcasts, and television newscasts. Second, to entertain. If your purpose is to entertain, your message should be enjoyable and relaxing. In oral communication, your message should be light and short. Some media messages are packaged into entertain, such as music, movies, television sitcoms, sport broadcasts, and social networks are just few examples of media that entertain. Third, the last one is to persuade. A message that influences your audience towards your point. For example, a post on a political blog may influence your viewer to think one way by covering one side of a story. As a media literate individual, you should be able to detect biases and read critically. The usual platform for this purpose of message are political speeches, political vlogs, and social media posts. Let's answer the question, who controls the transmission of these messages? En masse, interactive, and emerging media, the ones transmitting and controlling most of the messages you receive are corporation, government, and individuals. Corporations are also called media conglomerates because most of them own different media forms that we consume like television, radio, film, music, website, media group, or media institution, for example. This corporate-owned media's main goal is to prosper their respective business. That is why their messages are motivated by commercial interests, which are gained through advertising. Government, also known as state-owned media, are media produced or founded by the government. The major government media channels in the Philippines are People's Television Network, also known as PTV, and the Philippine News Agency. And individuals, it refers to the independent media. These forms of media are free from the influence of the corporate or government. Citizen journalism, for instance, has gained following because of social media. These platforms enable people to report current events to a wide audience. This is Jayson de los Santos reporting for NewsX Daily Communication Newscast. Back to you, Erman.
Thank you, Jayson. Information on the basic components to consider on how to convey the message with purpose will be provided to us by Malonie CERVANTES. Malonie.
Yes, Erman. Every day we connect or communicate with different people of various personalities and cultures for different purposes. The way we communicate with them will depend on our purpose. Every message we send should have an intent that will make it easy for the receivers to interpret in a correct way. In setting our goals, we must consider the who, what, how and why of the communications process in order to have an effective communication. In order for us to communicate with purpose, we must consider their four basic components that will help us to able to communicate effectively. First is have an objective. We must identify the purpose why we will communicate with the person. It is to inform, entertain, or persuade. What are your expectations from the person or audience? By developing strategies for communication, you can set and adhere to consistent standards for every interaction. Second, consider your audience. After identifying your purpose, you should think of the best way to communicate the message. Taking an audience-centered approach is important because your effectiveness as a speaker will be improved if the communication is created and delivered in an appropriate way. Third, be clear. Make sure that there are relevant information, no unfamiliar jargons, and no ambiguous terminology. By delivering message clearly, there is no room for misunderstanding or alterations of message, which is decrease the potentials for conflict. Lastly, check for understanding. It always helps to confirm understanding in a way that that's safe for your listeners. Taking a few minutes to check your understanding potentially save everyone a significant amount of time waste on a misunderstanding. Knowing the purpose of your communication is the key to a successful communications process. Keep on practicing your skills in identifying purpose and planning how to communicate. This is Malonie Cervantes reporting for News X Daily Communication News. Back to you, Erman.
Thank you, Malonie. Lucy DECENA will lead us off today with the information on understanding the audience and other ways of presenting the message concerning the audience and the occasion. Lucy.
Yes, Erman. So understanding the audience. As the sender of the message, you should realize that the person or the audience you are communicating with has a purpose too. And you should be able to identify that purpose. Knowing your audience involves understanding others and their perspective to see if they understand your words. By knowing more about them or their wants, you are able to better craft your message so that they will receive it as you intended. Next, other way of presenting the message. One message can be presented in several ways depending on the audience and the occasion. For oral and nonverbal communication. So in oral, it is communicating with spoken words. For example, conversation with friends, family presentations, and speeches. And for nonverbal communication is the transmission of message or signal through a nonverbal platform. For example, facial expression, waving to a friend, or other types of gesture is that you may recognize are the okay hand gesture, the thumbs up or thumbs down, or putting your fingers to your mouth to tell someone to be quiet. This is Lucy DECENA reporting for News X Daily Communication Newscast. Back to you, Erman.
What is the process of critical reading and the strategies to become a purposeful, active, and critical reader? Jece May DELOYOLA will provide us with this information. Jesse?
Yes, Erman, reading connects the ideas from the page to your mind. It allows you to be as imaginative as you can. Some would read not just to be informed or entertained, but to evaluate and weigh the text before they agree and accept the text. This type of reading is called critical reading. Critical reading is the process of reading texts with the purpose to understand them fully. It involves asking questions about the author's intention, the text structure and purpose, and the meanings of individual words and phrases. It is a more active way of unveiling information and ideas presented by the text. And there are steps that involve in critical reading, and these are analysis, interpretation, and evaluation. To become a purposeful, active critical reader, you may take into consideration the following strategies. First, we have monitor comprehension. It cannot be denied that you do know your limits when it comes to vocabulary, understanding the important ideas presented, connecting ideas to form logical conclusion, and etc. Monitoring comprehension does not mean merely knowing what your limitations are. Instead, students who are good at monitoring their comprehension know when they understand what they read and when they do not. Next, we have metacognition. Metacognition can be defined as thinking about thinking. Good readers use metacognitive strategies to think about and have control over their reading. Before reading, they might clarify their purpose for reading and preview the text. During reading, they might monitor their understanding, adjusting their reading speed to fit the difficulty of the text and fixing any comprehension problems they have. Next, you can use graphic organizer. So if you are a visual learner, you may use graphic organizer to make it easy for you to understand the text. You can use maps, graphs, frames, cluster, web, storyboards, and event diagram. Next, we have answering questions. If you are the student who would speed read a text given by the teacher because you wanted to get the answer to the question posted on the board as soon as you can, then this strategy will work for you. Asking questions will give you a purpose for reading critically. You can start by asking explicit questions first and then move to implicit questions. So next, we have recognizing story structure. So this strategy can be used when you are reading fiction. You can draft the story structure by identifying the characters, settings, significant events, conflict, climax, denouement, and resolution. So you may combine this strategy with graphic organizer. And last is summarizing. So this strategy can be used when writing research. So you determine what is important or what the main idea is in the text and write it using your own words. So after identifying main ideas, you can start connecting them to complete your study. So do not forget to eliminate unnecessary information to avoid confusion. This is Jece May Jen DELOYOLA reporting for X Daily Communication Newscast. Back to you, Erman.
Thank you, Jesse. Facts about the logical process of critical listening and the steps to follow to develop listening skills and be a critical listener will be disseminated by Angelene ECHANO. Angelene.
Yes, Erman, critical listening is a form of listening that is usually not mentioned, since it involves analysis, critical thinking, and judgment. Making judgments during listening is often considered as a barrier to understanding a person. However, critical listening occurs when you still want to understand what the other person is saying, but also have a reason or responsibility to evaluate what is being said to you and how it is being said. For instance, if there is an upcoming election and you need to decide who to vote for, you probably use some form of critical listening when you watch a televised debate. You listen and you evaluate. So there are strategies of critical listening. First is find areas of interest in the material you are listening to. Second, reserve judgment. Recognize your emotional biases. Third, work at listening. Mentally summarize, review what is being said, organize information, and find connections to what you already know. Fourth, avoid distractions. Fifth, listen for and note main ideas, focus on central themes. The key of critical listening is to try to understand the other person first before one evaluates. This is Angelene ECHANO reporting for News X Daily Communication Newscast. Back to you, Erman.
Thank you, Angelene. Shanon ELIS will provide us with the final news today as she will explain to us what is critical viewing and the things that can help one evaluate the information presented by visual media. Shanon.
Yes, Erman, critical viewing is a multimodal text game in the form of picture or by moving images with sound by comprehensive interpretation and comprehension in the process of facing symbols such as sound, effects, light, script, and more. For instance, in a movie, advertising, animation, drama, presentation, and more. In order to evaluate a film, shows, or a video, Before viewing, we must know the purpose of viewing, predict sequence of event or the viewpoint of creator, connect the film to other media or reference, create concept map, and build guide questions. During viewing, to understand the video, rewind for clarity of comprehension, rewatch with new perspective, form relevant question, and make meaning references based on the video. After viewing, recall and abridge the idea, interpret social context with regards to total views or social share, separate explicit and implicit ideas. There is a strategy that what we call extended comprehension. It provides the viewer the knowledge deeper learning regarding the video or streaming content. By reflecting evaluation of the film, compare and contrast film content, identify the big idea, determine the history of the film, evaluate the rules and characteristics of outside matter. This critical viewing match which analyzing visual images is important. It can understand the message by a visual representation. Again, this is Shanon ELIS reporting for NewsX Daily Communication Newscast. Back to you, Erman.
Thank you, Shanon. And that's all for today's communication news. Again, this is Erman COLEJARA, and this is NewsX Daily Communication Newscast. Have a great day.